Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk Kashrus, presented by the Kashrus Awareness Project in conjunction with Torah Anytime. Today, I am privileged to be joined by Rabbi Sholem Fishbane, Executive Director of ACO and Kashrus Administrator of the Chicago Rabbinical Council. How are you, Rabbi Fishbane?
Baruch Hashem, thank you for having me.
Thanks again for being here. So I'd like to discuss a topic that people may have a cursory knowledge of. They've heard the terms, but they don't really know what it is. So let's delve into it. And that is what we'll call shellac, otherwise known as in the field as resinous glaze or confectioner's glaze.
Right.
It's used very often in candies. Sometimes you'll even find it on fruit, which I hope you'll get into. Tell us, number one, what it is, and why there's a kashrus concern regarding its use.
Okay, yeah, sure. It's known in the industry as E904, but you're right, better known as shellac, confectioner, glaze, etc. And it comes from a lac bug. It actually comes from a bug where there's these little insects, female lac bug, that they suck the sap of the tree. It's found in India and Thailand. And it takes about 50,000 to 300,000, depending on the bug, to make about 2.2 pounds of it. Okay? Believe it or not, the word shellac doesn't mean shellac, from a lac. That's Hebrew now. It actually, the word lac in the Indian numbering system is 100,000. So it takes about 100,000 of these to get a small amount. And it's used as, it was actually used for many years to help with the phonograph and the old
Record
players, yeah.
Really? Is that right?
Yeah, and wood finishing and that type of thing.
They would coat it.
Right.
That's where the word shellac of like a shine.
Yes.
Shellac on the floor,
There
right?
you go. Right. So that's where it comes from.
That's where it comes from.
But then they discovered, hey, this could go well. It does a great job if you put it on fruit, like you said, or candies and whatnot. And in order to do it, now please know when it comes out, it's terrible tasting. So they have to put stuff into it in order to make it like a coating. And they put in water, they put in alcohol, they put in oleic acid or fatty acids, which could be a kashrus issue, soy or even dairy protein or whatnot to make it. And then they spray it on, and then it does. So there's really two shilohs. One is the actual lac, the shellac itself, and then there's the other things that go in, because once it's dried off, some of these things are way over shishim, like 11% on the fatty acids. So those are the two shilohs in halacha. Now, as you said, it's in candies. It is in candies. And believe it or not, there's a pretty long list of fruits that they'll spray it on to give it. It does two things. It makes it shiny, appealing to eat, and it holds in the water. It's water retention.
Like a sealer, like a
sealer, yeah. So here we go. Ready? I'll try to go through some of them. Apples, avocados, bell and hot peppers, cucumbers, eggplant, grapefruit, lemons, limes, mangoes, melons, nectarines, oranges, papayas, parsnips, passion fruit, peaches, pears, pineapple, plums, pumpkins, rutabaga, squash, sweet potatoes, tangerines, tomatoes, turnips, yucca, aceres b'nei hama. So that's a long list.
So these are all fruits and vegetables that are generally coated.
That are coated, and it could be
shellac.
with shellac, and especially the ones that you're going to find being sold to consumers, where it has to look nice, and seasonal and whatnot. So there are some that use a petroleum-based wax, which is fine, but the problem and the most common is the shellac one, and the question is, how does halacha, not going to bore the confectionery, the resins, how does halacha look at that? So there's a basic machloikus, we'll call it, between Rav Moshe and Rav Elyashiv. Okay, Rav Moshe says the halacha is kol hayotzim min hatamei tamei. Okay, and the question is, what about something called pirsha? Like meiraglayim is that pirsha? Is that hayotza? Is that pirsha? Pirsha, which we have much more room to work with. So Rav Moshe says that since shellac comes out and it's rock hard, he says miskasha ke'etz shebola aver oilam v'loy hoya davar oichel. It's nothing. It's pirsha. Don't ignore it. It doesn't have a din of hayotze min hatamei. Rabbi Elyashiv has a chiddush. He says, wait a minute. Pirsha is only a svara if and mutter when it comes from a pleasant tasting animal, like the meiraglayim of a behemoth tmeya, but And then the Chazal say, okay, don't worry about that. But if the insect is inherently inedible, and so it's still usher because the pirsha has the same din as
As a yotze.
yotze. So that's the inherent machlekes, and we could be here all day. It's very geschmack as far as back and forth, and therefore most of the major hashkachas follow the Moshe, and therefore will not only allow it on products, but they'll even certify it. Okay, they'll certify the actual shellac. I've seen it with hashkacha, even though it comes from a lac bug. We'll call it more the Haimisha in Eretz Yisrael. They're saying, stay away from it. And you know why it came, maybe you're asking now because it came back to light. It was actually after October 7th. So after October 7th, there were many things that happened. Obviously a terrible tragedy to Klal Yisrael. But one of the things that happened was they couldn't get to the farms that they were used to getting their produce from. So they were bringing produce from the United States and other countries, and what happened was the Badatzei, the Chareidis, issued Rabbi Sholem. There's stuff coming in from overseas. It's talking about produce, your apples, whatnot. Make sure that you get rid of it before you eat it because it's ulcer. Now you'll ask, how do you get rid of a coating? Because it's pretty stuck. It's pretty hard to get off.
Unless you peel it?
So you can peel it. Another possible way is you can actually, to rub it off, it won't come off. But you can throw it in boiling water for 10 seconds, which will loosen it. Then you can take a shmata. And
Really?
Yeah. So
and you could actually see it come off, the shellac
you'll
coating?
feel it. You'll feel it's a waxy thing. So that's something that is a possibility. You can't do that with the candies, though. You can't do that with the candies. So someone asked, like, okay, so if I want to be machmer, like, which one should I? It's going to be hard for me to do one. What about the candy? Like in Chicago, we had a candy store, where they had a whole section shellac free, confectionery free. So if someone wanted to be machmer, they go and they know can get the candies from that area that were okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we did that. So there's interesting stars. On one hand,
just to clarify before you go further, you're talking about someone wanted shellac free, they were being machmer. Now, if I pick up a box of kosher candy and I say it's kosher because it has national certification, or even sometimes a heimische hechsher on the box, isn't that telling me that either it doesn't have shellac or that the shellac is not a problem?
the latter. Most agencies that write that if it, let's say candies, if it has a national hashgacha, usually means it will say in it shellac, and it's true because they hold halachically.
Because they're passing like Rav Moshe?
Right? Yeah,
that's not a problem.
It's not a problem. I have reached out to some of the Haimish hashgachas to understand what goes into maybe a sticker on a candy that has it. And so far my research is that they're basically saying, we also agree with Rav Moshe, that they are not removing the shellac, at least the ones I've contacted. So there you go. I haven't seen that they're going into these massive candy companies and make them remove it for their small run.
So is there a way for the layman, for the man on the street, the kosher consumer, when he picks up a box of candy and he sees that certification, is there a way for him to discern, okay, this candy does have shellac, but the Kashrus agency is saying that it's okay, or that this box of candy does not have shellac, and therefore he could, rest easy because he's not relying on any coolest? Is there any way to determine that?
So if it's a national hashgacha, and it says the word shellac or some of the other words it comes up with, then it would be relying on Ramesha. If it would be let's say a badate charedis, obviously that means that they put in something special. A lot of the in between the Haimisha, call them.
Could you check the ingredient panel and
it will be there.
And it will be there either as shellac or as confectioner's glaze.
E904, confectioner's glaze, resinous
glaze, and so on.
That's what it'll be over there, right? So that would be the best way. Call them, and that's what I did. I called. Like, what are you? What's your standard exactly? So just one thing that I heard from Rebelsky, interesting. Rebelsky had a Geschmack Svara. He says the candies, when you suck it, so the coating is the first thing that comes off. And Rebelsky was actually more worried about those other fatty acids that went into it than maybe the shellac itself, because Ramesha was Ramesha. But he said, interesting enough, when you bite a fruit, so you have shishim, because it's a very small amount, and when you take a bite, you have all sorts of other parts going on, including the apple, or if you like biting into
Papaya or
a
whatever.
parsnip or
Yeah.
whatever it is, then you're okay. So that was one. That was a very interesting thing. And at the same time, as we said earlier, the fruit you possibly could have an eitzah, and that is you can put the fruit in the boiling water for 10 seconds and scrub it off. The bulk of the wax will come off. Now, again, the major agencies, including the CRC and all the other agencies, do rely on Ramesha. I think the point of kashrus awareness is to just, like you asked, what's this all about? What's behind it? It sounds pretty scary, coming from a lac bug. A lot of lac bugs to get a small amount, but it's a fascinating sugya, and our goal today is just to give some information, and then, of course, every consumer should ask their own shaila, and
Okay, thank you for the education. Thank you for the information. And like you said, everyone should speak to their Rav, their Paisik, their Moira Hira, and do what's appropriate. But thank you for the background.